Last year, I made a video about a clock divider that I made. I finished that build with a 3D printed panel and point-to-point soldering. I also mentioned towards the end of that video that I'd be doing a PCB for it. Well, here we are. It took me more than a year to get to it, but I finally designed a PCB. But before that, I did some minor changes. Instead of 8 divisions like in the previous module, this one has 10. So you have options from divide by 2 to divide by 1024. I also added an internal clock, a reset input, and a reset button. This entire series is an exercise for me to learn a little more about PCB design and electronics. So I always make it a point to try something new on each module. In this one, that little something is putting LEDs under the jacks, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I've seen this being done in other modules, so I got curious on how the build process would be like. Yes, I know you don't get to see the lights when something's plugged into it, but I'm sure I could use this in some of my future builds. The new features that I wanted to add meant that I had to change the schematics, and it usually doesn't go well whenever I decide to change the schematics and print straight to PCB without testing it first. So I made an updated point-to-point build with the features that I've planned, the additional divisions, and the reset input and button. It went great, so I went ahead with the PCB design. The PCB allowed me to shrink the module to 6 HP. Just like my 2 previous builds, I did the front panel on Inkscape, trying to stick to the theme of hand-drawn labels. I then imported my drawings into KiCad and then finally did the circuit layout there. It's mostly SMT components, which I really find faster to build, especially since you don't have to flip the board over and over. I know some people don't like to solder tiny components, so this is the perfect time to introduce my regular sponsor, PCBWay. They've been sponsoring this entire series of open source Eurorack modules for a couple of years now. You can find my designs on their shared project page where you can order the boards for my modules. There you have an option of either ordering bare PCBs, or if you don't like assembling SMT components yourself, you can also avail of their PCB assembly service, where you can choose to have them install the SMT components for you. I've already included my bill of materials that they'll need. I recommend you check out PCBWay after this video. I'll add links in the description. Thank you again, PCBWay, for sponsoring this project. I usually prefer to solder the components myself, since I also want to test the full build process in case other people would like to build this by hand. But whenever I choose to do the assembly service, I still prefer to buy and solder the through-hole components, since those are parts that I already buy in bulk. You'll also get the boards faster that way. Surprisingly, the build went well the first time, although I initially bought the wrong voltage regulator. But it's only meant to step down the output of each channel to 9 volts. I temporarily bypassed it and just used the 12-volt rail. This meant that the outputs would swing from 0 to 12 volts, which could be a bit high for some people, but it's fine. I was able to finish the build in an hour or so. Maybe next time I'll explore adding outputs of odd times like divide by 3s. I still have to read up on how I could do that. That's all for now. If you'd like to support what I do, please consider being a monthly supporter on my Ko-fi page. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video.